Hey everybody, welcome back to the official Wildhearts YouTube channel. I am one of your hosts, Chase, the brand manager for the Wildhearts team, and joining me today is Randy once again. Randy, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. We just came off of a 3 week tournament. We were in the basically the preliminaries, so we got a lot of discussion happening today for that. We got some like win percentages of familiars. We've got our own like just personal points of view as participants in this one this time around. I wasn't commentating, you weren't judging, so we were actually getting to participate for the first time in quite some time. So yeah, we got some cool feedback that we can go over and discuss when we go ahead and jump into this. But before we get into that, just how are you doing? Like, what have you been up to? It's we actually skipped last week, so we're like a couple weeks overdue here.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I recently got into a new hobby, which is bookbinding. So rebinding books with higher quality materials to make them hardcover. It's been interesting.
That sounds cool. Yeah, that's definitely not something I would ever like put on my my bingo card of things someone's gonna tell me this year. They've got into bookbinding, so that's cool though. I mean, yeah, there's plenty of. I've got so many old books in my house. Like, so I inherited my grandmother's house, and she was a big time book reader. My cousin worked at like a local bookstore, and they always got these books for free. They always had to like tear the cover off of them for some reason to like make them not valuable. And so she'd just bring home like just boxes and boxes of books. And my grandmother just like read everything. Like fantasy was like her big thing. And yeah, we have like all these books in our house. It's just like I just can't bring myself to throw away books, even though I'm like, I'm never gonna read this. But I don't want to throw away a book. Like it's a perfectly good book. And but I can't donate it either because the cover's ripped off of it. So
And there's
yeah.
something to be said for reading a book. Um, it's just so relaxing. Um, too. But yeah, kind of to your point, like, so I told my parents that this is like what I've been doing and whatever. So of course, then they go through kind of to like what you're talking about. They go through all their books that are like old and kind of damaged, and they're like, "Well, can you fix these?" And I'm like, yes." So
Oh, you just got yourself a whole new workload there.
I did.
Nice, nice. On my end, nothing really, nothing interesting, really. We did have, okay, so I live in Texas and we are not equipped for winter storms. Okay, this is just common knowledge. When snow hits the south, everyone freaks out. It happens every time. Um, People buy out all the water and stuff like that. But this time it was almost a little bit warranted. My daughter had 5 days off of school in a row, the entire week, Monday through Friday. School was closed, and it was just so ridiculous. For the most part, by like the third day, the major roads were pretty clear. Like they had enough traffic that it all melted off and whatnot. The only issue was like late at night they would refreeze because again that snow, that ice melt, and it would just refreeze as a solid sheet of ice. Again, we don't have any sort of like road crews that can handle it. We literally have like road graders that like go on like the back roads of rock roads and stuff and like re-smooth them out when they get too bumpy. They had those in town like trying to clear the snow. One literally caught fire and burned to the ground in the middle of the road in
What?
our local town. Yeah, right in front of the high school.
Oh my
I
goodness.
don't know how that happens, but it
Oh my
was like
goodness.
posted all over social media. It was very funny. But yeah, the one of the days like we went. Oh, there was a new movie that came out. I don't know if you heard about it. Iron Lung from Markiplier. It was like big social media craze, independent
Oh yeah,
film.
yeah. I've heard it's really good. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it though.
So we got tickets like back in December. So it's like we can't just like reschedule this. We don't even know how long it's going to be in the theater. Like it's one of these. It could be a 1 day only thing. I don't know. So we're like, okay, we'll go out and check the roads on the highway. And we're like, okay, it's good. We're fine. And we went to town, went, saw it. It was nighttime. We came back home, and my driveway. It's not like a steep incline. I mean, we're talking like I don't know, like a 20% grade here. It's not too bad. but literally I couldn't get into our driveway at all. Like I just kept I'd like back up and try to get some momentum, and I got just far enough to get my rear end of my truck like out of the road, so that way no one would hit it as it came by. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't even get up my driveway. But the rest of the like the roads on the highway and stuff were fine. But yeah, I lived down like a half-mile long dirt road, which was just snow and ice. So that last stretch just was the only struggle to it. And yeah, that was our snow adventure there that we had. And yeah, just being trapped at home for like a week. And yeah, unexpected school holiday there was, yeah, definitely unexpected. And we were ready for school to start back up by the end of it. There's only so much playing in the snow I can do. Okay.
Right. Well, I suppose since it's normally warmer down there, your snow is probably it's not like light and fluffy. It's probably like the heavier icy stuff that's
Yeah.
miserable.
Yeah, it's like sleet, like little tiny ice pellets that just pile up. When it snows, it almost sounds like rain. I say snow. It's in air quotes, let's be honest. But it sounds like rain hitting the ground because it's little ice pellets. Occasionally we
Uh,
do have light fluffy snow, but that's like once every 5 years. But most of the time, yeah, it's just ice and sleet, and yeah, it's not actually fun. Unless you're a kid and you're live in Texas and you're not used to snow, then it's fun.
yeah, that icy and that snow like that's really hard to get rid of too, because like it's so heavy. Like when you gotta shovel it, like heart
Yeah.
attack snow.
Oh yeah, I mean, it basically just turned to solid chunks of ice. My wife was trying to like clear off we have a ramp for my mother-in-law to like get her like walker and power chair and stuff up and down. And yeah, it was just like she was trying to get this like ice chunks out of the way so her mom could go down the ramp. It was just so absurd. Oh gosh. But yeah, that's all done with, and then it was 80 degrees yesterday. So
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
yeah, 60 degrees at night, 80 degrees during the day. Crazy times,
Yeah,
man.
that is a lot warmer than here now. I think it was a high of might have been 36 today,
For the
37.
high. Ugh, I don't miss that. My couple years in Colorado was a lifetime supply for me for cold weather.
Yeah, it's too warm to go skiing, but too cold to do. I mean, you can go play in it, I guess, and make a snowman, but I don't really enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like the thrills of it, like, sledding and stuff like that. Like that's fun. But yeah, just like snow angels and snowmen, I'm just like, we could be going fast right now.
Right.
Yep. We're talking about you and all your snow time fun. All right, though. I guess it's time to talk about some wild hearts, though, I would say. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna switch this screen around. I think first up we'll talk about the familiars and kind of their performance in the tournament. Now this was a 16-person tournament here, so we had what 32 total uses of familiars then in total. So and keep in mind some of these the varying level of like player ability was pretty drastic in difference, right? We had some really like fresh new players, and then we also had really experienced players. So our results are in here as well. The more experienced players, are weighted the same as the inexperienced. Okay. So just kind of keep that in mind when we talk about these numbers. So it's just kind of interesting, but at the end of the day, it's not like the defining like meta. You have to play the ones that had the great percentages because, well, I mean, maybe they went against a newer player that was still fresh and they were super experienced. So just kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, we'll start off with one of our most played, Chrism. Had a this is actually I found this really interesting. Only a 50% win rate. So out of 12 games in total that it was used in, 6 wins, 6 losses. Honestly, I expected Chrism to have a higher win rate, especially when you're dealing with the fresher players, newer players, and things like that. It's just kind of an easier to use out of the familiars, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is interesting. I think the Chrism suffers from, I'm not gonna say suffers from. It's a familiar that is absolutely great for newer players, and newer players tend to struggle to deal with it, but more experienced players, I think, they know how, and then that kind of becomes an easier way to handle it. Um, so really, I think the interesting point in a lot of these statistics is actually kind of seeing like what the more, because this tournament was actually really great. We had a bunch of people come back from the last Midland Showdown, and so they're a little bit more experienced. And then we also had a bunch of new people that just played in this tournament as well, which I think was really great. Um, but obviously, the people that are more Wildhearts is really more of a, I feel like a skill set. Um, so like once you kind of get good with the familiars, you're kind of good with maybe all of them or more or less, and then that skill kind of like carries over from familiar to familiar to familiar. Whereas if you're like new, sometimes these familiars can kind of surprise you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good point and good way to look at it for sure. Yeah, so yeah, it's really interesting. Let's look at Tornado next. Had only three uses here amongst all the players, and had a 44% win rate here, which that makes sense. I feel that Tornado's a little bit more difficult one to use. I would say, like some players are really good at it. I am not. When we had that challenge, that weekly challenge where we had to use it three times in 1 week, I think I lost every single game I played with it. Like it was just not my play style, and I just kind of struggled with it. Um, so
Yeah.
for the wide variety of player skill set here, like I feel like Tornado at 44% like feels right in my mind.
Well, as one of the Tornado players, I would like to advocate for my turtle boy. So the Tornado is the perfect like bait and switch familiar, right? So you want to bait him out there, so he is kind of open but invulnerable because a lot of times because if someone sends him back to the bench, you can just bring him out by discarding a card. This works really great with cards like Giant Growth, which if they send him back and he comes back out, he keeps that until the end of the round.
Right.
So it was just unfortunate, like so both the uses, or not both, but two of the uses of Tornado was by staff. Obviously, we can't. Staff could not advance in the tournament, so that does kind of limit his playability. But I will agree with you that the Tornado is not as easy to use as say the Chrism
Yeah.
or
I mean, a lot on the. I mean, as far as like the air quote kind of like the might creatures, right? Like I would say it's probably the most difficult out of all of them. The current pool, at least.
I agree. He doesn't really play like a normal Might familiar. He'd be
Yeah.
like, because the Chrism is very high power and he's very tanky, and the Kindle like powers up much like you would expect a Might creature to do. But the value of the Tornado isn't like your stereotypical Might creature. He plays kind of like a little bit like a Sylph Amulet, right? Like you get rid of him and he just kind of comes back. So he plays as a different kind of way to look at Might.
Right. Almost like an attention seeker, if you will, right? It's like, yes, look at me, put all your things into me, because if you KO me or send me back to the bench, like with Skyer, yeah, it just comes right back. So yeah, and yeah, that's a great idea though. With the giant growth is like you can put the like the power boost on him, right? But at the same time, it's not like you don't have to worry about losing it if he gets KO'd. So
Mhm.
for sure. All right, next up, we got Kindolf, which is the one that I used from Might, and it had a 77% win rate out of the same player count there of three players. Honestly, I'm surprised it's that high, just because I didn't think it didn't feel like Kindolf was like overly. man, I don't even know how to put it. Like overly used by like experienced players. I thought it was like more of like the mid range to casual players that were using it. Besides myself, and but yet it still had a pretty good win rate, 77% there. On the higher end, I think yeah, only a few beat it out with the. I think there's two that beat it out with 83% rate. Um, so yeah, I mean that's pretty cool. 7 wins and only 2 losses there. So yeah, the Kindolf putting in some work there. I mean, I love the Kindolf just because I like the draw that comes with it because I'm using a lot of these cards anyways on my Might Familiars half the time. So getting that draw in addition to it, like yeah, I could use a Strength Training on a Chrism, um, but if I use it on a Kindle, if I get that draw power. So depends on also what my like the other style that I'm using with it. If I'm using something that might have a lot more draw consistency, then I might not use the Kindle. So that's just kind of where I feel it out. But also Kindle is just my boy, so I'm classic there of using it whenever possible.
I think to some extent too, some familiars I think are designed to be, you need to learn how to use them, like maybe the Tornado, and that's not 100% straightforward for new players. And I think other familiars are designed around you need to figure out what their weaknesses are and how to handle them, which then makes them really great for um, players and harder for new players to maybe work around that. Like the Kindle is a great familiar because like it powers up and it gets stronger and it gets you draw. And if you don't know how to handle it with non-tamer cards to get rid of it and remove that, it can be a little bit overwhelming, I think, for new players. And given the split with how we had a bunch of new players and a bunch of new players come in, I don't actually find that super surprising.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It gets really powerful, but I feel like it's a lot easier to remove off the board. I know whenever I play it, I'm like super cagey. I don't like to power it up if I don't have my guardian there to protect him. Just there's so many ways to like get rid of him. And then compared to the other two mites familiars that we see here, he's so much more of a like a glass cannon in a way. So it'll be a little bit. I feel like more cagey when you play him. So I guess that's why I
Right,
was
for sure.
surprised
And
that he
that's
did so well compared to the others.
Yeah, and that's something that you as a experienced Kindle user has learned, right? So like it'd be much harder for a person to be able to get rid of your Kindle than say like a new player just starts and they're just not guarding Kindle and then he just gets removed and like, well, maybe he's not great. But he is
Right.
great. He just needs to be protected.
Yep. Next up, we got Ferritoon here. Only 2 uses out of him here, and he had a 50%. I say he, but let's be honest, they're all creatures, they're all its, so it's easier to say he for me for some reason. But it had a 50% win rate. 3 wins, 3 losses here. Um, I mean, that feels pretty right. I mean, only two uses, so like the numbers are a little bit more like not super flexible. So hard to get like an accurate like number count there of like is it overly useful? Is it underly useful? Like that sort of thing. And yeah, 50% like that feels okay. Like it was only 2 uses, so yeah, I don't really have too much thoughts on Ferritoon here at this juncture.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anytime we're looking at a familiar that was used by staff, its win ratio is going to be a little bit abnormal than if it was not used by staff. Um, I feel like the the Ferritoon is one of those familiars that is just a super solid like support familiar. It's kind of how I view it, right? Like he's going to give you that extra draw and he's going to give you that VP and he's very he's a starter deck familiar and he's just very like I'd say easy to use. Like you can't really go wrong with him. So 50% win rate, I would expect that honestly if it was used. I mean that's kind of what Prism is. It's a starter deck familiar. I think they're all probably going to be about that. They're just very solid.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, definitely the starter decks are very like very balanced, right? They're very middle of the road. They're not like overly tuned, underly tuned. They're just, I mean, everything's I feel like is just very well tuned in this game, but like at the same time, it's not like overly complicated, right? They're just like you just keep playing out resources, you keep getting VP, you play the Ferritune out, you get an extra card to your hand. Like it's not like an overly difficult familiar uh, to manage. That said, going to the next one, Jellycane is definitely a much more, I would say, difficult, like higher skill ceiling to really master Jellycane here. And but I know it's a lot of fun because of its like incredible randomness. So I understand like people's enjoyment out of it. It's just like it can do all these different things, like you just gotta I would say depending on what you want out of Jellycane, like you should, focus on what you want more out of it when building your deck accordingly. But unfortunately, it had one of the lower end of win percentages, only 22% here. 2 wins and 7 losses on the Jellycane. Like I said, this is definitely one that just it takes a lot of practice. This is not one that you just like slam in there. Like Ferritune, yeah, you can just slam it into a special deck, and it'll treat you right, no matter how you play it. Whereas Jellycane is not one where you can just necessarily slam it into any deck, and you've got to really be cognizant when you're playing it and getting that debut effect of what all triggers you could possibly see, and just going for like the value there in what you could get out of it, and that takes a more experienced player for sure of knowing all the different ins and outs that you could possibly have from it.
Yeah, for sure. I think we saw a lot in this tournament where people who had Jellicane were kind of treating it like almost like a worse Fairytune, right? It was just like a 4 power creature, but they weren't getting the added draw. They weren't getting the added VP. They weren't really triggering, like Fairytune would give you. And so basically they're playing Jellicane, cycling two, and then not really getting a whole lot of benefit from that. And Jellicane is one of those familiars that the skill ceiling is very high, and that comes down into how you build your deck and what what do I want this Jellicane to be giving me? Am I adding more 3 casters in there so I can trigger? Am I putting in a lot of support? So I'm triggering those, and that's what I want it to do. Or do I want movement? Or do I want to be throwing out a bunch of negative counters? So you gotta make sure your deck is built around what you want Jellicane to be doing, and it obviously wasn't. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think our judge that judged, I think almost all these games, said that like the Jelly King got almost like no value in most of the games that he saw. So, which is
but
really
the jelly,
unfortunate.
I will say, the Jellicane is one of my favorite familiars, and it is a phenomenal familiar. Once you learn it and get good with it, it can change the tide of a game if you build your deck around it and everything. It's super powerful. So don't let the 22% deter you from using it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those like even myself like the first several times that I used it, I was just like, oh, this is just it's so frustrating. But I was also a lot newer whenever I was playing Jelly Cane. Like now, if I was to like go back and start playing a lot of Jelly Cane, like I think I could get the value out of it way more now that I have so much more experience with the game in general, to get a lot better use out of it. Because yeah, that movement alone is just so great. Which we'll talk about that when we get to Illusion as well. But in especially with the Roost, right, being able to re-trigger debut effects. Is it could be really really crazy if your deck is built accordingly. So yeah, Jelly Cane definitely not for the faint of heart. But once you get pretty decent with it, you'll definitely see the value. It's high skill, but also like high value at the same time, used correctly.
Yeah, and I think we see that a lot in a lot of TCGs, right? Like most cards in various TCGs should be relatively balanced, and but some just take more preparation to get a higher payoff in the end. And I really feel like that's quintessential Jelly Cane. Like I feel like its potential is one of the highest of the familiars. It's just if you don't have your deck set up right, it's gonna be full of a bunch of field bats.
Yep. Yeah, and I think we definitely saw a fair amount of that. Next up is Glaciafly, and this one that doesn't surprise me. There's a couple different factors here. It has an 83% win rate. Okay, it is tied for the highest win rate here. 5 wins, only a single loss. Glaciafly is a pretty simple strategy overall, right? That ongoing putting its power in the two adjacent fields, right? And when you think about it, the Roost is always in the center field. It is always safe to put Glaciafly in the middle field. You don't have to worry about playing it into a field where it's something like haunted glade or anything like that. It's just going to be always safe to put it in a middle field. So it's like it was a pretty safe pick, I would say, for this event. And yeah, we see that in the win percentage as well. And that debut, if you can trigger it multiple times and reset an ally in this field, whether that be your own allies or your opponents, like you resetting those, those opponent ones, getting rid of their block, getting rid of any plus power they might have, or your own that might have a lot of negative power, like resetting them. Potentially, resetting multiples every single round. Like the value of Glaciafly in the Roost definitely like made sense to me. So like seeing this even with the low like number here, like I believe that it was pretty fitting for it to have such a high win percentage for
How
this.
many Glaciaflies were ran?
Two.
Two. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because we're seeing both Glaciaflies then in the finals. So both Glaciaflies were actually piloted by the best players, respectively, in each of their pods.
Let's see
So that would
here.
make sense why they would end up with such a high win rate too, right? Because both we have a mirror match for
Yeah.
one of the semifinals.
Yeah,
So
Jay
that means
Johnny
that
and Samuel Graham there.
yeah, they both are running it. They're both the best players on each of their pods. So that would make sense why they got um, such a high win percentage too. Um, but yeah, I do agree that the Glaciafly it's a fantastic familiar. I mean, it is, especially um, with the Roost, as you were saying. And what I would like seeing though, what I find interesting is seeing some of these games. Um, Players are so used to separating their familiars uh, that they'll put like the Glaciafly in the middle and then they put like their Chrism in like a different field. Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Uh I personally don't ever do that. I
I
am so,
know.
I feel like such a cookie cutter. If I'm using that combo, Chrism Glacialfly, which is what we actually see here on the screen, is that was the paired familiar with both of these Glacialflies. I mean, it's fairly cookie cutter, right? Of like if I'm going to run the Glacialfly, I'm going to run it with Might. But I don't. I've tried it with Kindolf before, but they're both so hungry for those like power up cards that I don't like running them together. So Chrism like makes more sense. And yeah, you can just throw both of them in the middle field. Again, the middle field is always going to be safe because you don't have to
Yep.
worry about any bad effects being on like a field that's in the middle. So for this tournament, actually really solid picks. It just yeah, you got 8 power there, and then you just power up your Glaciafly with all of your might cards, and like you're just a absolute powerhouse to deal with. So
Yeah, and then the Chrism wins the field that the Glaciafly is in, and the Glaciafly wins the other fields, and
yep,
you win everything. This is actually one of my favorite decks. It was the first deck I built for my daughter to get her into the game. Um, so yeah,
yeah.
I think it's a really really strong combo.
My best game I've ever played was with that combo. I won 20-0 in 2 rounds.
I believe it. It's super powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, and it's pretty simple. Like, yeah, that's a great point. It's a very like new player friendly deck, and in the hands of an experienced player, it's even more of a a threat there. So,
Yeah,
um,
when you get into the starter deck, Chrism is already um, one of those familiars that it's very strong, and the learning curve isn't actually how to figure out how to use the familiar. It's your opponents need to figure out how to counter it.
mhm.
So you end up with this like, if you're a new player and someone's using Chrism and Glaciafly, now you have to figure out how to like counter what they have, and I think that that's a learning curve. I think that experienced players can definitely like dismantle that. but I feel like for new players, that's going to be a pretty steep road.
Yeah. And for those new players that are out there watching, or the players that are might have struggled in their matchups against this, I mean, there's definitely numerous different cards for most of the styles there. Like we talked about Skyr earlier, like skyring away like their Glaciafly, and then they like lose all their power in those side fields. You could use something like a momentum shift, right? Because they're going to be juicing up that Glaciafly like crazy, using a momentum shift if you're playing ferocity and getting that back, or using a Sune stick in special and just like KO it or reset it back to no plus power on it at all, and like they got to start their whole strategy all over again. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely ways to deal with it depending on the style that you're playing. So just food for thought there.
100%.
All right, what do we got next here? Illusion. This is crazy. Another starter deck, right? You wanna take a gamble on what the win percentage is?
50%.
Exactly. Yep, another 50% there. Um,
You know,
I'll give you a little tease though. Infernander is not 50%, but it is super close. But yeah, Allusion here at 50%, another one of those. Like it's a solid gets you that solid value. Honestly, I almost thought Allusion would be better. Have a little bit better of a chance here, but it was only used in two decks, and I think that's probably what balanced it out in getting those results. Same with the Ferritune here. But the debut of giving something negative power, and then you can move a friendly ally in this field, so you can get a lot of debuts off of that with the Roost, right? You throw it in the middle there, and it can just like go to town on giving you lots of different movement. We saw a lot of Crags being played, and I think in conjunction, if you can get your Crag in play with the illusion here in the middle field, right? And you can just start sliding all your stuff over there every single round. Like I thought that illusion might have just a little bit more of a positive win percentage.
well, I mean, Simba is playing Owl Illusion, so that definitely helps the win percentage. I don't know who was playing the other Owl Illusion, but um, Owl Illusion is one of those, I think, extremely valuable familiars. Like it's one of my favorite familiars personally. Like if I'm running tactics, it's pretty much Owl Illusion. Um, just because it makes it so smooth. I don't have to think about if the whistle is gonna like burn me or not or anything. It just everything works. Um, I love it.
Yeah, that special ability is really good. It's almost like a double edged sword though. When you're teaching new players, you're like, oh yeah, I'll give them illusion, so that way they don't have to worry about the unique rule, right? But then at the same time, they're not really learning because worrying having to worry about the unique rule because they've never had to worry about it before. So when they play stuff that's different, then they're like, "Oh, I'm so used to having that crutch when I was learning that now I'm having to like almost learn a whole different skill set playing the game." So it's a little bit of a double edged sword there.
No,
But
I'll go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, looking at the why I think part of the reason it had the win percentage it did is because both uses were in the same bracket. They were both in
Oh,
Group One there, so one was Simba and one was Dankastad. So not only did they have to play each other, but they also had to play me. So like that was a part of the factor there.
right, yeah. So I think realistically, had Owl Illusion been, we would see a higher win percentage.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And and just for everyone at home, like the reason I say me, it was because uh, uh, our judge had a really good way of putting it. When all the different staff members were playing this tournament, everyone had like their own different technique for approaching it. Like none of us could advance, right? So some of them were like using it as like a teaching element, right? And like really like letting players, experience their deck and explore their deck. And then it came to me, and I was just like, I'm just gonna hammer home like being absolutely brutal as possible. So yeah, I got some flack for that. So um, yeah, it's just everyone has their own teaching approach to things in life. Okay, I just I'm very aggressive. What can I say?
Well, I will say that goes to show like um, if you are a player in Wildhearts right now and you think that because you beat a bunch of the devs that like devs are terrible at the game, we're not terrible at the game. I mean, just look at Chase. Like, but some of our approaches are a little bit different for how we approach the tournament, as you said. So there's good and bad to it. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's different methods. Like I said, different methods for accomplishing, attempting to accomplish the same goal. All right. Next up, Trossum here. Um, I kind of get this one. 33% win rate. 3 wins, 6 losses. I don't think this reflects Trossum itself. Trossum is a rough familiar to use in this Roost event, right? If you, especially if you put it in that middle field, and you're starting to pump out lots of mirror images, like exponentially faster than you probably should be, you're filling up your fields crazy fast. And if you're not playing with like something like might, where you can like, oh well, I can at least just like power up my stuff, right? To or play unity tactics to get as much value out of that as possible. If you're not like specifically doing that combo, it makes it even harder to get, I think, wins with Trossum in this particular tournament. So I think that's
So
one of the things that might have hurt it.
definitely, yeah. No, Trossum is a fantastic familiar. It's just, I would like to see a Trossum paired with Ferocity as well. If you're not going to go the Unity Tactics route, at least go with Ferocity, run the double Fury Potion, run the Sack Bonds. You're
Yeah.
pumping on all those mirror tokens. You can crunch them then for a bunch of power if you're overburdened and use them for extra resources, and you won't get overwhelmed with it. But definitely, this was a little bit trickier of a tournament to run Trossum in. It required some definite deck setup, maybe more than you normally would have needed.
Yeah, I see Jimmy here used it with Chrism, but also caveat to Jimmy, he had a lot come up, and he actually had to forfeit 2 of his 3 games. That's a big factor there.
True.
And then the other one was used in a double uh, tactics deck here with Bat. So um, like that's a pretty rough combo there. Again, you don't have those like those answers to like help boost it. And then the last one was Stacy here. Used it with Infernander, so that helps. Stacy is a little bit more new of a player though, but was using it with Ferocity, so at least had those tools at the disposal to get the more use out of having all those tokens. But yeah, I think a lot of the other stuff was particularly combos and just the unfortunate like issue with Jimmy having to miss the tournament a little bit there. So like though that there's a lot of like other factors of why the Trossum like had such a low win percentage, I think, here. So again,
Yeah,
don't blame it
100%.
on the Trossum.
Because when you miss a tournament thing, that counts as a loss. So Jimmy might have won with the Trossum.
Yeah.
We will never know, but it counted as a loss for it.
Yeah. And then the other one, the double tactics, like you don't really have a whole lot of tools to deal with overabundance amount of mirror images like filling up your fields. So
Right, double tactics is one of those situations where I'd say that running the owl illusion, if you're going to double tactics, running the owl illusion should be one of your familiars more often than not, just
yeah.
because you won't have some of the other answers that you get in another style.
Yeah, especially with like the like we're still like fresh in the like release schedule, so it's not
Oh
like
yeah,
you can well just run a whole bunch of 1-ofs and be okay. But mono tactics definitely rough without the bat or without the owl for sure. Speaking of the vat though, um, 50% win rate on the Vesperoon. There's another one I thought might have had just a little bit more positive: 6 wins, 6 losses. So it was the tied for the most played familiar. Again, we saw the same thing with Chrism, though. So, like, my same kind of thought process here with the Chrism, I thought it would have had a little bit higher percentage, but particularly with the bat, being able to trigger the debut effect multiple times every round, potentially with the Roost, I thought the bat would have been like a little bit more of a powerhouse in this air quotes format.
Yeah, I think the bat is one of those familiars you also have to build your deck around. And I think, if it's a really popular familiar, it probably means that a lot of the newer players are probably using it. And that might mean like they're going against, they might have built their deck perfectly fine, but maybe they're going against a really experienced player and it just wasn't enough. Or maybe they didn't build their deck with the best Bruin in mind and it just didn't work out in the way that it really should have.
Yeah, one of them was me. So I had 3 wins myself, so I was half of them. And then one of my opponents had it, and then let's see where the last couple are. Shockwave had it, and then the other one was Jonesy in that double tactics.
Mm.
The other one was with Jellycane. So like that would make sense then. Like again, the tactics one, tactics is great with. I mean, it's literally in its own archetype there, its own style. So it's like great in that with a lot of those different combinations. So, and then Don Fidel also running his with Might. So, but again, it's unfortunate, when you have those same ones in the same bracket together, which was also the case here, is both bats for 2 different ones were in the same bracket. So that's also going to like. I mean, because you're going to get one that wins and one that loses, right? When they get paired against each other. So there's no way to, like, if they were one in every single bracket, it could have been a little bit different there of a turnout.
Well, yeah, right. Like when we get down to a later familiar, right? Would have been 100. It's impossible for it to have 100% win rate because there was only two of them and then they went against each other. You just
Yep.
one of them was going to lose.
Yeah. So yeah, it probably makes a little bit more sense then that it ended like it did at that 50%. Yeah, just because yeah, 4 of them and they all like 2 of them had to play each other in each one. So all right, Infernander here, and this is the only one out of the starter deck familiars that wasn't at 50%, but it was at 44%. It was really close. 4 wins, 5 losses here, um, which is yeah, that's I mean that's interesting.
I'm
I
gonna
thought honestly, I thought it would have been the other way, like at least one, 5 to 4 instead, because the Roost is like almost made for Infernander, right? Doesn't matter if you're hitting an even or an odd, you're getting some great value out of your Infernander.
For sure. I think the issue really comes down to how many Fernandez were there? Probably two,
3.
three. So we have Symbol running one of the Infernanders, so that the Infernander is a great one. The Roost is designed for it, but the Infernander does require a little bit of like a little more out of the starter deck familiars, especially. I think it requires the most amount of skill to use correctly, just because you got to be cognizant of your discards and how you're going to set those up. Um, so I think that we end up in the situation where we have a kind of a veteran player using the Infernander, and it works out really well. And but we also have situations where players are put in a situation where maybe they're going up against a better opponent, or they just weren't really quite familiar with how to use that Infernander, and it didn't pan out maybe in the way that we anticipated.
Yes, and deck building also I think is a factor with Infernander to having those discards built in, but discards that aren't going to be hurting you at the same time. Like one that's always kind of a little bit more difficult to manage is like Lady Seer, right? Is to get it maximum value out of Lady Seer and with the discard and with Infernander, right? It's not something you just like kind of shotgun out and just kind of start going, right? It's needs to be a little bit more methodical, I would say, even though it's a pretty simple play, right? You see the value, I get a discard, I get to trigger my Infernander, I get to hit something with -4, right? But you want to be getting, you don't really want to be hitting something like a Terrachik or a Croatian, right? Where you're going to get only half the value there. And, it's on a Guardian. It's something that is already something you want to remove off the board anyways. So
And with
it's
the
a lot trickier.
huge amount of block that's out right now, you got to make sure you have enough like ping per se, like where you can hit things and remove block, so
Hmm.
that latest year play isn't just like, well, I'm paying one and discarding a card to remove block. Like that doesn't necessarily feel good. So then the Infinite can breathe that -1 on it. Like that's not great. So there's a lot of there's a lot of I'm gonna say like skill in how you go through that process of actually being able to use the Infernander's stuff, just due to how much block there is out right now.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a trickier one out of all of those starter deck ones. So yeah, it's pretty close to where I expected it. Like I said, it was just literally like you flop the 4 and the 5 on the wins and losses, and I feel like it would have been probably right where I expected it to be. Next up is the Skyson. The Skyson is a rough familiar to use in this tournament. Um, with the Roost, right? Because you're not going to get a ton of value out of the Skyson, right? It's going to hit its debut, and it's either going to move something out of a field into the Roost, and then potentially move it right back out, and you don't really get anywhere with that. Um, so it's definitely a little bit more tricky. Initially, when we were getting everyone's decklist submissions, there was actually a ton of Skysons. And then we are like, just so everyone knows, make sure you're aware of the Roost and its ability. You discard a card to draw another card, so you're not going to get that being triggering the ongoing of the Skyson super easily because you're discarding, but you're going to replace it right back. If the Roost was just discard and you didn't draw, yeah, Skyson would be way more valuable there. So, and I believe it was also used by a newer player. So, again, just keep that in mind. But it had a 0% win rate. So,
Definitely an anomaly as far as Skyson potential and performance. I will agree that the Roost probably isn't the place for the Skyson. However, it still could have easily gotten some wins.
it was only used by one player. So, like, already it had the potential of getting wins of like a lot more difficult than literally every single familiar on this list. Literally, if it had been used at a 2 of, we would have saw some wins out of it, right? Like on some of the other ones that they had a pretty low win percentage, but they still had some. It's I think the same thing on the Skyson here is like at a 1 of, it was already hard to get wins off of it, right? So
Yeah, no, for sure. The Skyson definitely, to your point, like it could have shuttled and then shuttled back out of the Roost, but it still could have gotten a ton of value. Um, Even just kind of ignoring the Roost, and then your other familiar is the one that's using the Roost, right? Like, in a lot of these, like only one of these familiars is what we're really banking on Roost, anyways. So like, it still could have gotten a ton of value. Um, in the matches, it's still a fantastic familiar. I think it's just an anomaly that it just didn't win in me. But it totally could have.
yep. The last one here on the list is the Rapture. This is the same as the Glaciafly here at 83% win rate. 5 wins, 1 loss. Uh, Pretty substantial, right? And one of the players using it, right? It was only used at 2, but one of them was one of our semifinalists.
Yeah, so it was, yeah, basically it was, I was using the other one, so it was me versus Ride my avatar, and I mean there was gonna be one loss no matter what.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that makes even more sense. Yeah, that the one lost was having to be guaranteed. And then like thinking about this, like with the number of Trossum players and things like that. Like, was there a Trossum player in y'all's bracket? Do you remember?
There was Jimmy, but I never got on it. I never got.
Uh, yep.
But I will say that right now is you until series one, like right now is like really good for the Rapture. There's a ton of one cost Guardians, right? So like it has a huge amount of value for Guardian removal. Um, I don't think that its win percentage is indicative of it being better than any of the other familiars. It just got ran. It got ran in a group where one, there's two matches that were like forfeited and that were automatic losses, right? So like that helps. And then um, and then I was also being piloted by staff, and then I was also being piloted by a semi-finalist. So it just had a lot going for its win percentages this time.
Oh yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure. Yeah, one of them being Jimmy, for potentially, I think both of you might have gotten wins for that. Um, yeah, so a lot of different like external factors, I think, on like why this is so high.
Yeah, I don't think that the Rapture isn't. I mean, it is a very easy and straightforward familiar to run, which is kind of what we're seeing. A lot of like the more straightforward familiars to run do tend to kind of have higher win percentages a little bit. I think that might also be um, they just might gravitate more like to the more experienced players too. Like I don't want to have a complicated deck or something. So that's why these more experienced players like grab these familiars. I'm not really sure, but that is kind of a maybe an interesting thought as to why some of these have such a much more higher win percentage. It's more like these familiars appealed to the more veteran players versus others.
I mean, that's
Because the
true. I mean,
Trollus in the last tournament did wasn't its win percentage like way higher? It was like 80% or
yeah,
something like that.
it was the in the winning list as well. So yeah. I mean, yeah, I totally get that. As like a former like super competitive like in big official tournaments and stuff like that. The decks that do the best are just the decks that have the most consistency, right? Whatever is, you're gonna get your results. What the deck does, you're gonna get it, constant and steady results, right? Those typically, you're gonna get the value out of them. More than likely are often the ones that are chosen, right? So, like again, Prism. Okay, yep, you're gonna get your block. You're just gonna be a big old solid, thing to deal with there. So, uh, Vesperoon, like I said, I thought it was a great choice for this tournament. Like that's why I chose it, just because I thought, in conjunction with guaranteeing the Roost will be in every single matchup I play, like that makes sense there. Rapture, people are gonna play one cost. Yourself is gonna play one cost, right? You're gonna get value at a Rapture. Skyson can be a little bit more difficult there. Infernander, I think is a great choice for the Roost for sure. I think that I don't know the cards we're a little bit more limited on the discard, right? But with the Roost, it like totally helps in Fernander like crazy amount. Like as we get more cards in the game in general, like more discard and stuff like that, in Fernander Roost combo just feels so good. The further and further we get into Wildhearts. So yeah, I that will be the one I play a lot of Rapture now whenever I play Ferocity, but I will definitely be playing a lot more Infernander as the card pool grows, especially now that we have the Roost.
100%, especially with one of like some of the new familiars that are coming out. They just work just beautifully with it. So
Yep.
um, yeah, Infernander stocks are going to go way up.
Yeah.
It's definitely good.
All right. So yeah, we're kind of approaching the hour mark, but do you got any stories or anything like that you want to share with us from the tournament? Something that like stands out in your mind?
Um, no, I just this is my first. tournament that I actually participated in. So I was just glad to finally meet some of the people in our community that I haven't had the pleasure of playing with before. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Uh,
Getting to,
I mean, it's always get a fun to it's always a lot of fun to get to play with the fan base, right, and the player base and stuff like that in especially in like this capacity, right? Of getting to go head to head with them and stuff like that, where they're really like going all out and stuff like that, and not just like I'm gonna play a silly deck on a Friday because it's community night and I'm trying to get my weekly the weekly challenge in or anything like that. I'm gonna build a silly deck. Like this is a tournament where people are trying to go all out, so it's really fun to get to play them in like that capacity. Uh, one of the big plays though that still like I can't believe I won this game. And it was such a like a simple play, but a card I don't use a whole lot of just because I don't like see that immediate value in playing it. Was Speralt, and I put both my familiars in the middle field, and I had a Sylph Amulet support, and they Speralted my Sylph Amulet when both my familiars were stuck in the middle field, and it was inactive that round. And I was just like, oh no, like my whole strategy just went out the window. Like my Kindolf was like super juiced, right? And I had like a Crochet and a Terrachix, so I had the Guardian to protect it. And then yeah, they do that, and I'm like, it's in the wrong field. What am I gonna do? That was such a gnarly but super simple play that just absolutely crushed my whole strategy in that moment. So, oof, man, that was definitely one of the plays that I was just like, it still haunts me of oh my gosh, I almost just completely like whiffed because of just a simple sparrow, an ally that I didn't put a lot of faith in for myself playing, but someone else just had a one of. It was Don Fidel had it as a one of in his deck, and just like it hit me so hard with it. I think it was only like round two, but it was like my first resource that I had played out, and yeah, he he saw the value of it in I guess the first turn, the first round, and then he's like, "No, I'm not dealing with this for a whole game," and that was pretty rough for me.
Speralt's an ally actually that I recently in my match with Ride My Avatar learned to not KO. Interestingly enough, like once it's out, I kind of just never want to KO it again because I KO'd it and then he self amuleted it back in immediately, and then I got two of my supports taken out, and I was just
Ouch.
like, okay, this is I had enough of that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a might card, so you always got to be diligent about that potential self amulet uh, play because you just never know, and that's always so terrifying too. Of like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Especially like, oh, I'm just gonna use it on this terror chick. Like, what a big deal? And then they self amulet. Now it's a guardian with block, and you're like, oh great, okay, that's a nuisance.
Right, and something else got blocked because Terrachik just came
Yeah.
back in. You're like,
Yep. All right, but I think that'll go ahead and do us for this week. Any final remarks before we get out of here?
yeah, I just want to give one final caveat on these win percentages that like this these percentages should not be taken in a vacuum. This was one tournament, and like the overall how good or bad a familiar is should be taken in the context of a whole bunch of games and um, players learning and all sorts of stuff. Like as um, for you players out there, like as you get better at the game, you'll be able to take any of these familiars and do quite well with them. So these percentages are just kind of like this is kind of just what happened in this tournament with the people that took them, but not as like a evaluation of whether or not these familiars are good or bad.
Yeah. And also with it being the Roost event, the Roost is guaranteed to be in the center field like every single game you play in. It cannot be moved, it cannot be taken out of play, anything like that. Like this isn't a normal game setup, right? It was a very like specialized tournament, and so that also is of course like a very big factor. And as well as like just who goes first, right? Because it's not the normal we bring two each and then you just kick one and that person has initiative, right? The person with the lowest power will always be the one that goes first because they have to kick one of their own fields, right? And the person with the highest power, they have to kick one of their own fields to completely put out of the game. It doesn't go in reserve, it just is out of the game entirely. So like the format is not your typical format as well. So like that's also like a mitigating circumstance on a lot of this stuff. So I just thought it would be really cool to like do a breakdown just in general, just to kind of get intriguing stats just to kind of go over for the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. It is impressive.
All right. Well, with that, we will catch y'all in the next one. We will be streaming the semifinals, so stay tuned for that. Starting on, was it Wednesday of this week? Yeah. So the same night that this goes live. Stay tuned because this evening we'll be going live for our first semifinal match. So yeah, that should be fun. And then next week we'll of course be having the finals.
Yeah, I
All right.
can't wait to see it.
Yep.
I've been streaming it actually on my TV. It's like my football or whatever.
That's crazy. Wildhearts being streamed on the TV. Like, oh
Yeah.
man, forget the Super Bowl. I'm watching the Wildhearts semifinals.
Right. Right.
All right, later.
Later.